The concrete cracked like a spider's web of betrayal, spreading beneath Karen Mitchell's perfectly manicured feet. She stared in absolute horror at what had once been her pride and joy. A $75,000 custom-designed swimming pool that now looked like a disaster zone excavated by demons. Sweat beaded on her forehead, not from the scorching suburban summer heat, but from the rage bubbling inside her like molten lava. 37 days of meticulous planning, 17 consultations with landscape designers, and countless Instagram-worthy vision boards had gone into creating this backyard oasis. Now, it was nothing more than a gaping wound in her meticulously maintained property. The pool installation had been her ultimate statement. Not just a swimming pool, but a declaration of success in the gated community of Oak Ridge Estates, where every square inch was a competition and every neighbor a potential critic. Karen's husband, Mike, stood silently behind her, his engineering background rendering him momentarily speechless at the catastrophic scene before them. "Who does this?" Karen's voice was a dangerous whisper, cutting through the mid-afternoon silence like a razor. Her perfectly highlighted blonde hair remained immaculately in place, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding her. The construction crew had vanished. Not a single worker remained. Their trucks, which had been parked so confidently that morning, were gone, leaving behind nothing but tire tracks and destruction. The massive excavation had revealed something far worse than a simple installation error. Large sections of the pool's foundation were compromised, with massive fissures running deeper than anyone could have anticipated. Karen Mitchell was not the type of woman who accepted defeat. At 42, she had bulldozed her way through corporate boardrooms, neighborhood association meetings, and most recently, the intricate world of luxury home improvements. Her reputation for getting exactly what she wanted was legendary in Oak Ridge Estates. But this was a declaration of war. The foreman, Jake Rodriguez, had assured her just last week that everything was proceeding perfectly. "Mrs. Mitchell," he had said with professional confidence, "we're right on schedule. This will be the most impressive pool in the neighborhood." Now those words echoed with a bitter irony. Mike finally spoke, his voice measured and analytical. "There's something not right here, Karen. These aren't typical construction errors. This looks deliberate." Deliberate. The word hung in the air like a heavy fog. Karen's mind began racing. Who would dare sabotage her dream? Who had the audacity to destroy what she had so carefully planned? Her manicured hand, adorned with a 5-carat diamond ring, clenched into a fist. Someone was going to pay. And Karen Mitchell always collected her dues. Little did she know the universe had already set its own wheels of karma in motion. A complex machinery of retribution that moved with a precision far beyond her calculated plans. The destruction of her pool was merely the first chapter in a story that would unravel secrets she never imagined existed. The next morning, Karen sat in her gleaming white kitchen, surrounded by more stainless steel and marble than most professional restaurants possessed. Her laptop was open, fingers flying across the keyboard with the precision of a military strategist. She was going to get to the bottom of this pool disaster, no matter the cost. Mike had left early for work, sensing the dangerous energy radiating from his wife. He knew better than to get in her way when she was on a mission. Their marriage had always been a calculated partnership. He provided stability and technical expertise, while she drove their social and professional ambitions forward with relentless determination. 3 phone calls and 2 strongly worded emails later, Karen had assembled a dossier on Jake Rodriguez and his construction company. What she discovered made her blood run cold. 2 previous lawsuits, both mysteriously settled out of court. Complaints about shoddy workmanship buried under non-disclosure agreements. Something wasn't adding up. Her best friend and neighborhood confidant, Diane Hartwell, arrived precisely at 10:30 a.m., just as Karen was brewing her second espresso. Diane was the unofficial queen of Oak Ridge Estates' gossip network, with connections that ran deeper than the neighborhood's elaborate irrigation systems. "Oh, my God." Diane's perfectly lined lips formed each word with dramatic emphasis. "I heard about your pool before you even called me. This is going to be the talk of the entire community." Karen's smile was razor sharp. "Not if I have anything to do with it." But the real story was brewing beneath the surface. Jake Rodriguez wasn't just a random contractor. He had a connection to this neighborhood. A connection that would soon unravel in ways nobody could predict. As they sat discussing the situation, a text message pinged on Karen's phone. Unknown number. The message was brief but cryptic. "Some pools run deeper than concrete. Ask about the Johnson property from 5 years ago." Diane leaned in, her designer sunglasses sliding down her perfectly sculpted nose. "What's that about?" Karen's fingers hovered over the screen, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension flooding her system. Whatever this message meant, it was clear that the pool's destruction was just the beginning of a much larger story. Little did Karen know, the wheels of karma were spinning, slowly, methodically, preparing to reveal a truth that would shake the very foundations of Oak Ridge Estates. The pool was gone, but the real excavation was about to begin. Outside, a black SUV slowly rolled past the Mitchell house, tinted windows hiding whoever might be inside. Just another moment in a neighborhood where nothing was ever quite what it seemed. The Johnson property. Those words echoed in Karen's mind like a persistent whisper, refusing to be ignored. By afternoon, she had dispatched her most trusted private investigator, the former police detective named Frank Reyes, whom she used discreetly in past delicate situations. Frank was not impressed by Karen's usual tactics. A grizzled man in his late 50s, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that had seen too much, he treated her like any other client. When he arrived at her home office, he carried a weathered leather briefcase that looked like it had survived more secrets than most people would encounter in a lifetime. The Johnson property, he repeated, spreading out a series of old newspaper clippings and digital printouts across her immaculate glass conference table. Not a simple story, Mrs. Mitchell. 5 years ago, the Johnson family had owned a property just 3 blocks from Oak Ridge Estates. Their pool, much like Karen's planned installation, had been the talk of the neighborhood. But something went terribly wrong. The family disappeared almost overnight, their home sold in a suspiciously quick transaction that raised more questions than answers. Disappeared? Karen leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the glass surface. Frank's smile was grim, not literally, but they left town so fast it was like they were running from something. The husband, Robert Johnson, was a construction project manager. Interestingly enough, he worked with several local firms, including the one Jake Rodriguez now runs. The connection was thin but present, like a delicate spider's web, barely visible but strong enough to catch unsuspecting prey. A soft ping interrupted their conversation. Another anonymous text, this time at the location Oak Ridge Community Center. Back parking lot tonight, 9 p.m. Karen's husband, Mike, would have advised caution. Diane would have dramatized the potential danger. But Karen Mitchell didn't do caution. She did calculated risk. As evening approached, she prepared carefully, a sleek black outfit that could transition from professional to covert in moments. Her most discreet jewelry, simple diamond studs that cost more than most people's monthly rent, a compact GPS tracker hidden in her designer clutch, and a smartphone with multiple backup batteries. The Oak Ridge Community Center was typically a beacon of suburban wholesomeness, yoga classes, community meetings, children's art programs. But tonight, it would become something else entirely. Frank's voice was a low warning. This could be a trap. Karen's response was immediate and characteristic. Everything's a trap if you're not prepared to spring it first. As darkness fell, the community center's back parking lot waited, empty, silent, holding secrets that had been buried deeper than any swimming pool foundation. Karma, it seemed, was about to make its first move. The back parking lot of the Oak Ridge Community Center was a study in suburban stillness. Sodium vapor lights cast sharp shadows across empty parking spaces, creating a chessboard of light and darkness. Karen arrived precisely at 8:55 p.m., her black Mercedes SUV gliding into a spot near the rear entrance, engine purring to a silent stop. Frank was already there, positioned in an unmarked sedan with tinted windows. His earpiece was connected to a sophisticated communication system that would make most local law enforcement jealous. "You're taking a significant risk," he muttered through the comm link. "Risk is just opportunity wearing a different outfit," Karen responded, her voice steady. At exactly 9:02 p.m., a figure emerged from the shadows. Not the anonymous texter Karen had expected, but Jake Rodriguez himself. He looked different, smaller, more vulnerable. Gone was the confident construction foreman. In his place stood a man carrying the weight of desperate secrets. "You shouldn't have started digging," Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. Karen's response was immediate. "I always dig deeper." The story Jake Rodriguez began to tell was nothing like Karen had imagined. The pool's destruction wasn't about her. It was about something far more complex, a cover-up that stretched back 5 years, involving the Johnson family, multiple construction companies, and a web of corruption that ran through Oak Ridge Estates like underground poison. Robert Johnson hadn't just been a project manager. He'd been a whistleblower, uncovering a massive insurance fraud scheme that involved high-end home renovations, fake construction reports, and millions of dollars funneled through seemingly legitimate businesses. "They made him disappear," Jake said, his hands shaking. "Not literally, but they destroyed everything. His reputation, his business, his family." Karen realized she was no longer just fighting about her destroyed pool. She had stumbled into something much larger, a conspiracy that some very powerful people would kill to keep hidden. A sudden movement in the shadows, a car engine revved in the distance. Frank's voice crackled through the comm link. "We've got company." 2 black SUVs with darkened windows rolled into the parking lot, moving with a precision that spoke of professional training. This was no longer a simple conversation. This was about to become a confrontation. Jake looked at Karen, fear and desperation mixing in his eyes. "They're here, and they won't let either of us walk away knowing what we know." The parking lot transformed. No longer a quiet suburban space, it became a battleground of secrets. Karen Mitchell, who had started this journey furious about a destroyed swimming pool, now found herself at the center of a storm that threatened to consume everything she knew. Karma, it seemed, had plans far beyond a simple act of revenge. 36 hours later, the world of Oak Ridge Estates would never be the same. The press conference was Karen Mitchell's masterpiece. She stood behind a podium adorned with local news station logos, her perfectly tailored white blazer a stark contrast to the bombshell revelations she was about to drop. Mike sat in the front row, a mix of pride and anxiety etched across his face. "This is not just about a destroyed swimming pool," Karen began, her voice cutting through the murmur of assembled journalists and local officials. "This is about a systematic fraud that has been bleeding this community dry for years." The evidence was devastating. Financial records, intercepted communications, and sworn statements from whistleblowers like Jake Rodriguez created an irrefutable chain of corruption. Multiple construction companies, insurance adjusters, and even some local government officials were implicated in a scheme that had been siphoning millions from homeowners' insurance claims. The Johnson family, once believed to have simply disappeared, were vindicated. Robert Johnson, who had been pushed out of the industry for attempting to expose the truth, was now set to receive a massive settlement and public apology. Jake Rodriguez, under federal protection, had become the key witness. His decision to destroy Karen's pool was a calculated risk, the only way he knew to draw attention to the larger conspiracy. The pool's destruction was a message, a desperate cry for help that only Karen Mitchell would be bold enough to investigate. 5 of the most prominent construction and insurance executives were arrested that morning. The Oak Ridge Estates community watched in shock as handcuffs clicked and search warrants were executed on homes that had once symbolized their most prestigious neighborhood. Mike approached Karen after the press conference, a rare smile crossing his usually reserved face. "You did it," he said simply. Karen's response was vintage Mitchell. "No, justice did it. I was just the instrument." Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, the same type that had started this entire journey. But this time the message was clear. Karma always comes home to roost. Some pools run deeper than concrete. In the end, the destroyed swimming pool became a symbol of something far greater. A turning point. A moment when one woman's fury became the community's salvation. The Mitchell name would be remembered in Oak Ridge Estates, not for their pristine landscaping or social status, but for the day Karen Mitchell tore down a conspiracy that had been hiding in plain sight. Karma, indeed, was faster than anyone could have imagined.